Hey everyone, and welcome to Math. We're going to start off today in Chapter 9, Lesson 2, which is page 507. To get started today, make sure you have your pencil and you open your book to page 507. Pause the video until you're ready, and then unpause to get started. In today's lesson, we're going to be talking about the distributive property. The distributive property is defined as a property that allows you to decompose one factor, then you can use a smaller known facts to find products. So remember, when we talked about decomposing factors, we have done this before, and we used to decompose it into two smaller numbers that were the same. And when we did that, we used that as doubling the known fact. In this lesson, we're going to be taking that decomposition, we're going to break down the number, and we're going to break it down into fives. So our goal is to break a number down so that it is seen as a 5 and more. So let's take a look at what that means. This first one, we can see that it has Henry's Hardware Store sells wrench sets. Each, and that key word each tells us to multiply. Each set holds 8 wrenches. How many wrenches are there in 6 sets? So we have 8 times 6. Now, 8 times 6 might be a difficult number to figure out. So let's say that we break the number 6 down into two numbers, 5 and 1. So when I talked about us breaking down or decomposing the number, our goal is to break it down into fives. Now, let's say that the number is bigger than 10. You could break it down into 10 and more. In this case, 5 plus 1 makes 6. So we're going to break the 6 down into 5 plus 1. So instead of having 8 times 6, we're going to have 8 times 5 and 8 times 1. This is where we group our factors into parentheses. So instead of 8 times 6, we're going to do 8 times 5, and we put these parentheses to separate the two parts. So 8 times 5 plus 8 times 1. So 8 times 5 is a known fact, 40, and 8 times 1 is a known fact, 8. Now we just add 40 plus 8. 40 plus 8 equals 48. 8 times 6 equals 48. There are 48 wrenches. Pause the video if you need the notes. And let's move on to page 508. So let's start off with example 2. Karina's dad used 7 boards to build a picnic table. How many nails were used if each tells us to multiply, board needs 7 nails? So we start off by knowing that we're doing 7 times 7. We're going to decompose one factor. So we're going to have to decompose one of the 7s. So we start off by thinking about 7 broken down into two numbers that add together to make 7. And we're going to use 5. 7 times 5 plus 7 times 2. So as you can see, we have one array that has a 5. So that's going to be the 7 times 5. And then our second array is 7 times 2. Now what I want to talk about is the distributive property, what it means to distribute. So the word distribute literally means to take something and move it into groups. So we have two groups because of our 7 getting broken down into 5 and 2. So now we're going to distribute, or use the distributive property to move this 7 over to the two groups so that it can be multiplied twice, once with the 5 and once with the 2. So we have 7 times 5 equals 35. 7 times 2 equals 14. 35 plus 14 equals 9 and 4, 49. So, Karina and her dad used 49 nails altogether. I'm going to clear these notes, so if you need them, pause the video. And let's move down. So, now that we've understood a little bit more about distributive property, let's break it down. So, 8 times 3. We're not going to break down the 3, we're going to break down the 8 here. So, we're going to bring the 3 to both of our parentheses, to our groups. Now, we're going to break the 8 down into 2 parts. So, 8 gets broken down into 5 plus 3. So remember, we always use the 5 if we can. So we have 5 times 3 equals 15. 3 times 3 equals 9. 15 plus 9 equals 24. So we have 24. Final answer. Next, we're going to break down 8 times 8. 8 times 8 might be difficult, so we're going to break one of the 8's down into 5 plus 3 again. So we have 8 times 5 and 8 times 3. 8 times 5 is 40. 8 times 3 is 24. So we have 40 plus 24. 40 plus 24, hopefully you could do that in your head. 40 plus 20, 60, plus 4, 64. If you need these notes, pause the video and replay when you're ready to move on. So going forward, you're going to be doing the independent practice by breaking down or deconstructing each number and then distributing the other factor. So remember, take the one that's bigger than 5 to break it down into numbers that are compatible with 5s and 10s. So, once you're finished, come back to this video and check your work. So pause me, complete your independent practice, and come back to this video to check your work. So starting off with this first one, we have 4 times 6. We're going to keep the 4, but we're going to decompose the 6. So I know I'm going to do 5. So 4 times 5 plus 4 times what makes 6? 5 plus 1. So we have 20 plus 4. 24. Next, 6 times 6. Break it down. We have 6 times 5 and 6 times 1. So we have 30 plus 6, which equals 36. Next, we have 8 times 9. You can choose which one you want to break down because both of them are bigger than 5. In this case, I'm going to break down the 9. 8 times 5. And 5 plus 4 equals 9, so 8. 8 times 4. I couldn't make my line. 8 times 5, 40. Plus 8 times 4, 32. Total, 72. Number 6, we have 10 times 4. 10 times 4, we're going to break the 10 down into 2 5s. 5 times 4 plus 5 times 4. Now you might say, I already know 10 times 4 equals 40, but that's not the point. The point is to practice breaking down the numbers and practice making these 2 problems and distributing, like this case, the 4 to make 40. And the reason is because we're doing easy problems now, but when you get to 4th grade, you're going to have big numbers. Not just 10, you might have, 10 times 44. And then you could break it down a little easier by doing these types of problems using the distributive property. So next we have 12 times 4. This one, we're going to use a 5 or 10, so we're going to use a 10. So since it's 12, we're going to say 10 times 4 plus 10 plus 2. So 2 times 4. 10 plus 2 equals 12. So we broke it down to 10 and 2. So we have 40 plus 8. 48. Next, we have 11 times 8. Now, you can choose to break down the 8 or the 11. I'm going to break down the 11 to 10 and 1. 10 times 8 plus 1 times 8. So I have 80 plus 8, which is 88. I'm going to delete these notes. Hopefully you have been doing well with this math. And we're going to move on down. So number 9. We have 10 times 10. And this is another one where you might say, I already know this. I'm not going to do distributive property. You're doing distributive property on every single one because it's practice, breaking down numbers. So here we have 10 times 5 plus 10 times 5. And the reason we do times 5 is because 5 plus 5 equals 10. We're breaking it down. 50 plus 50, which is 100. Next, we have 12 times 6. I'm going to break the 12 down, make it smaller. 10 times 6 plus 2 times 6. Next, we have 60 plus 12. 60 plus 12 equals 72. Let's take a look at page 510. Page 510 starts off with this word problem. It says, the Fix-It Right hardware store opens 12 hours a day. How many hours are they open altogether from Monday through Friday? So we want to count how many days are there from Monday to Friday. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. We have 5 days. 12 times 5. Now, if you don't know 12 times 5, we're going to break it down. 10 times 5 plus 2 times 5. So we broke down 12 to 10 and 2. 50 plus 10. 50 plus 10 equals 60. Now, because it's a word problem, we need a word answer. So how many hours? So 60 hours. This next one's a doozy. Number 12 says, a restaurant orders 9 dozen eggs. 9 dozen. 9 dozen, and a dozen equals 12. So 9 times 12 is the total eggs that they have. So we have 9 times 12. We're going to break down the 12. 9 times 10 plus 9 times 2. So we have 9 times 10 plus 9 times 2. 90 plus 18, which equals 108. So we have a total of 108 eggs. Now it says, the picture shows the number of eggs from each dozen that broke during shipping. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Man, I would be very upset if I realized that somebody broke 5 out of 12 eggs every time. So, we know that there's 5 eggs broken out of 9 dozen. So 5 times 9. 5 times 9 equals 45. So we know that 45 eggs were broken. We're going to take that away from our total to find how many are not broken or unbroken. So 8 minus 5 equals 3. And then we borrow from the 1, it becomes a 0. This 0 becomes a 10. 10 minus 4 equals 63. So we have 63 eggs left over. 63 eggs unbroken. That brings us to the aquarium question. There's 10 clownfish and 6 pufferfish at each aquarium. There's 7 aquariums. What's cool about this is they've already decomposed the number to 10 and 6 instead of saying 16 fish. So we have 10 at 7 different aquariums, 10 times 7, plus 6 times 7. 6 pufferfish at each aquarium and 10 clownfish. So 10 times 7 is 70, plus 6 times 7 is 42. 70 plus 42. 70 plus 42 equals 112. 112 fish in all. And that brings us down to the last two problems. So we're going to come on down to number 14 and 15. Number 14 says, there are 12 inches in 1 foot and 3 feet in 1 yard. How many inches are in 12 yards? Or in 2 yards, sorry. So we are going to be looking at this as in, we have 1 foot equals 12 inches, and there's 3 of those in a yard. Now they want us to do 2 of those, so 2 yards. So I drew a picture kind of showing that each one of these is 12. So now I know that I have 12 times 6. There's 6 boxes with 12, 6 feet. So we have 6 times 12. Well, that might be a little tough for you. So we break it down by using the decomposition idea for the distributive property. So instead of 12, we're going to say 10 times 6 plus 2 times 6. And we use 10 and 2 because 10 and 2 equals 12. So 10 times 6 is 60, plus 2 times 6 equals 12. 60 plus 12 is 72 inches. Which then brings us to, how are parentheses used when grouping factors? So we use them to separate the decomposed factors. So make sure you have all your notes and check with your teacher for what questions you're doing for homework tonight. And check your Google Classroom to see if there's an exit ticket to use as well. Thanks so much for doing your math with me. Have a great day, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye.